Hello.
Hey, Vin. How you doing, man? What's going on? Good.
I'm thinking have to start boxing.
Boxing. I started kickboxing in about 1994 or 5 down at Melbourne Martial Arts with a trainer called Nick Vigura. And I actually had a little kickboxing bout down at the Melbourne Martial Arts back around about that time. I loved my kickboxing, but I just like the sport of boxing. I always loved Mike Tyson and Muhammad Ali. I saw boxing as the king of sports, and I wanted to be part of that some way, somehow. Also, on my father's side, I have a bit of black heritage from. When we look into it, I have a bit of Nigerian DNA, and just seeing these African Americans get up there and fight, I just thought it was in my blood, and I want to be like Tyson. So I found my way to a boxing gym and had a few amateur fights, and then I coached people for many years and made a bit of a comeback down at the Melbourne Pavilion and just had 2 pro fights under Brian Armatruda. And but most of the journey for me has been, boxing, staying fit, coaching, and and as an amateur, I won a couple state titles as a middleweight. I fought for the state title 3 times, like the novice state title, the intermediate, and all that sort of stuff, and I won it. And that's how I met your mate Paul Lee, because we both won the Vic middleweight. I was middleweight. I think he might have been welterweight or a division below me. And that's how we become friends.
Start rapping.
Rapping was, again, I guess a bit of my ancestry inspired me. Seeing these African American artists come up and be kings of the wordsmith game, I was like, I've got to be part of that as well. So I think my first rap I can remember when I was a young kid with my dad. We put something down on his answering machine, because the old answering machines were like tapes. And I just fell in love with the music and just wanted to be part of that. But I didn't really know how to find a studio. I didn't know anything about that process. I was still very young, so I used to catch up with friends and write my lyrics, freestyle at parties. And after my amateur boxing career, I started doing boxing. After my boxing career, I started doing bouncing in nightclubs. And one of the guys I was working with, he was also into hip hop. And he said, "Man, let's I like your raps. I love your lyrics. Let's start recording." So him and I partnered up, and we started laying down some songs, and we released our first. It took a few years to get it out there, but we finally released our first album in 2009. After that project, I then went solo and released my first solo album in about 2017, and then in 2019. One of my albums got a bit of airplay over in the United States. We ran it on college radio as well, and one of the songs, which I think Nothing Comes Easy, got up to number 4 on the US college charts, and another commercial radio station over in Southern California called KCAA, which is hosted by a guy called Angel Baby. Big shout out to Angel if you're listening. And the station sponsor, Mr. Charlie Perez from Round 2 Music, they decided to get me over there, and I signed my first record deal in 2020. It's been an interesting journey. And, since that time, I guess having that association with the record label over in LA, I was able to collaborate with a few other LA artists and rappers, such as Baldacci. And we did a boxing track called Iron Mike, which released earlier this year. I'm actually collaborating with another record label now. They're based in the Netherlands, called Raw Diva Records. So they're doing the beats, and they're producers in Nigeria. So diving into my father's ancestry a little bit on that side, and he sends me the beats. We record here. He mixes and masters, and then we release the tracks through the record label. So yeah. Millie? Oh yeah, Taylor. Yeah. So she fought Taylor Harris. Yeah. Not personally, nah. Oh, okay. Yeah. Nice. Yeah. I know. Nice. Yeah. Dope, man. I like both. I'm a North Melbourne supporter. Probably because my dad and then my dad convinced my mum to marry for North Melbourne. my mum was born in Germany, so she didn't really grow up liking footy, but my dad got her into it. And then, then they used to take me to North Melbourne games as a young kid. And so I love that. It's really a big part of our culture here in Melbourne too. So it's good to have a footy team. But in soccer, as I said, mum's from Germany, so I like Bayern Munich. That's my team, and I've been lucky enough to go and watch them play many years ago now in Munich. And and then like in the World Cup and stuff, always support Germany. And yeah, Australian soccer. Occasionally I'll go to an A-League game. I'm a bit undecided whether I'm Victory or City. Sometimes I'm Victory, sometimes I'm City. I would say I'm not a diehard fan of either team. I just like my sport, basically. It's good that soccer in Australia has grown a lot over the last 15 years or so, because it wasn't that big back then, back when I was growing up. So yeah, it's good that it's yeah. Marty. So the story with Marty is she's the photographer at the fight. So when I had my comeback, my 2 pro fights, it was a brief career, but I didn't turn pro till I was about 38. So I retired from the amateurs when I was about 21, and I started coaching, bouncing, doing music, and I just wanted to give it one last go, one last crack. So we had 2 fights, but Marty was the photographer. And sorry man, I got a little bit of hay fever. Yeah, a little bit. I do have asthma. Yeah, I had asthma pretty severe as a young kid, and but this weather, when the pollen's in the air, I'll get it a little bit. So Marty was the photographer, and I used one of the photos that Marty did of my last fight as the cover of my book. So when the book was released, I made sure Marty got a copy and all that sort of stuff. And yeah. Yeah, so my grandparents, so my upbringing, so my parents split up when I was young. So I was actually born in Shepparton because my dad was working there, but it was only briefly. And then they moved to, I think, this is before I can remember, but so I've been told, we lived in Frankston briefly. Then my parents split up. And my German grandparents, who I call Uma and Ulpa, which is German for grandma, Papa, whatever. Yeah. They lived in the Parang Commission Flats, near the skate bowl and all that sort of stuff. So we lived there for a little while. And the story is my grandmother, my Uma, had a dispute with our neighbours, and my Uma threw a brick through the window. But it was sort of like, the guy had it coming. He was beating up his wife. He was an alcoholic. So we got asked to leave the flats. We had to leave. So we went to briefly around Paran, just in another apartment, and then we moved to Noble Park. And my auntie and uncle lived in Springvale South, and I had a cousin there, my cousins, and we all went to school together at Heather Hill Primary on Heatherton Road. Yeah. Burton Park. Yeah, we're in Myrtle Street. Yeah, yeah. It was, but it's good now. They've cleaned it up. It's like lots of nice new play equipment. I took my kids there about 6 months ago, and the play equipment's nice and everything. So then after that, my mum bought a house in Ashwood. In those days, Ashwood was affordable. There was a lot of commission housing, ex-commission housing around there, but Mum's wasn't a commission house. She bought her own house. We lived there. I went to school there for a little while, and then my mum remarried and moved to Melbourne. And Melbourne was, I just felt like a duck out of water, really out of place, because we've been in a posh neighbourhood. So I guess, I was getting in a little bit of trouble in that area as a kid, and getting into things like graffiti and petty stealing and silly, just stupid stuff, dumb stuff. I was being a dickhead, and so it was good when I finally got into boxing, because boxing gave me some discipline. And also, sort of, my mum and my stepdad were having their problems when I was growing up. There was a lot of arguing in the house, and I didn't really like being home, a lot. So boxing, and also I felt boxing was a physical form of discipline that I needed, but rapping was a creative outlet, so I could sort of vent what was going on inside through lyrics, or especially the lyrics I did in the early days. And now I guess over the years it's just evolved. What's that? Yeah, that's right. Yeah, 31. So yeah, I think that would have been a program called Talking Urban. Yeah, I've done a few interviews with those guys. Yeah, they're like old school friends of mine, and they put together a program and yeah, wanted to get us do an interview on there. So yeah, we just did an interview talking about my music, about my life, and kind of similar to what we're doing